What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel as a post-match pint after Celtic 4, St Johnstone 0 as the Hoots move 14 points clear at the top of the league. We're here at Malones in Glasgow, as always. It's on Suckyhall Lane. If you're in the area, get involved, come in, grab a beer. Kenny's with me to go over it. Kenny, another brilliant win for us. A nice 2-point cushion added to the 12-point lead we'd already built up as well. So a brilliant day all round.
Yeah, quite pleased with starting 11. When with this level of fixture congestion, it's an obvious game at home to bottom of the league to try and mix things up a bit. You always expect McGregor to play, so when you're driving to the game and see him not playing, it's a bit of a surprise. But I think it was good. I think that made sense. Maeda as well. As much as he seems inhuman at time, he is a human being. Good to see him get a rest from the starting 11. But the most heartening thing, I think, and probably the biggest objective today, other than winning, was getting that right-hand side functioning. Our biggest threat this whole season has been the combination of Alistair Johnstone and Kühn firing up that right-hand side and causing chaos, and we've really missed that the last 2 or 3 games. Anthony Ralston and Yang have been such a drop-off. So when you're coming up to a game against Ibrox, to see them come back in away from injury, it was a big opportunity for us to give them sort of 60 minutes in the legs and see what happens. And that whole first half for me was all about Kühn. He doesn't overcomplicate the game at all. You see people like Haksabanovic and Yang fainting and trying to do step-overs. Kühn knows he's just got close control, he's got great speed, and he knows how to finish, and he maximises all of those attributes in a Celtic jersey this season, and he was brilliant in that first half. Brilliant composure for his goal. Keeper had to pluck another one at the top corner. Brilliant balls into the box, just lethal. So for him to come and complete that match, and complete 60, 65 minutes of that match and get injury-free was as good an outcome as the actual result itself. Engels, there's a couple of jerseys up for grabs as well, I think, in the Rangers game.
Big time, we'll talk about that, aye. Big time.
Left back, an obvious one, but also in the middle of the park. Bernardo, McGregor obviously plays, but you could probably pick 2 of the other 3. And Engels was good today, I felt. He get stadium man of the match against Motherwell. Yeah, probably a bit, whether that was just or not, I'm not sure. But he played okay. And I thought, without scoring a spectacular goal today or taking your breath away, he wasn't shucking anything. Now, he's not hidden Arnie Engels through this bad run of form, I would say, but he's looked a bit lost at times. And okay, it's inferior opposition today, you need to caveat your assessment, but he wasn't hiding from anything. He didn't get on the end of the score sheet in that first half, but he was all over the place trying to get a goal. Some of his shots were a bit wayward, but his energy was there. And you know he's got the talent. The undoubted thing about Arnie Engels is that he's got his talent, and he got his assist coming in the second half. So that first half, in difficult conditions, we have to mention the conditions. I mean, unless it was on the deck, it was a bit of a lottery. You knew going into the second half with the wind that we were going to take more of a dominant position. And it was great to see Kyogo get a couple of goals, because the other big thing out of Kyogo that we wanted to get out of today, I felt, was getting Kyogo's confidence built up. He's such a confidence player. We know what he can do against Rangers. So he's a pivotal player to play against Rangers at Ibrox. However, everything has to be on merit. I'd just been breathing down his neck. It was an important game today to try and get his confidence back, and a couple of goals from him. And I like the fact that they were poachers' goals. Will hopefully put his mindset in the right place to hurt Rangers. Bernardo was good in that second half as well. Key involvement in Kyogo's first goal, and a lovely little ball in for that fourth goal. Yeah. So he's trying to play his way into the team. So we're in this wonderful position, healthy position, where you've got people breathing down the necks of the starting 11, trying to get in the game, not just against Rangers, but looking forward into the Champions League. And it just feels so, okay, it's an easy outing against bottom of the league, you might say, but seeing people desperate to put on the jersey and keep that jersey, it's about as healthy a position we've been in a long time. So a lovely afternoon.
Aye, absolutely all round. I think, going back last few weeks, we've maybe had some slow starts to games, but I think you're right in saying that Kühn was integral, and I think that sort of electric pace and energy that he brings to the team just transmits to everybody. And I think the tempo and intensity that we started the game with was much better than it has been in the last few weeks. And I think maybe we didn't get the goals that sort of dominance showed, partly due to the St John's goalkeepers made 2 cracking saves in that first half, but you could tell that we had the right energy and the right tempo today from minute 1.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, if you start against bottom of the league in a congested fixture period, if you play with a regular 11, they can sort of see it out and go through the motions a bit, still make sure you get the points. But there was a real hunger, because the likes of Engels, Kühn's tried to come back and prove his fitness. Engels is desperately trying to get his name in the starting 11 for the following week. Yang, who I thought was poor again. We have to be objective about it. We can't purr about everything. But Yang's trying to make his mark. Another opportunity for him in what would be a relatively comfortable fixture for a winger to come into, I thought was pretty weak. But the three of them at least having loads of possession, playing with that real drive and desire to get the points was obvious from the outset. Kyogo was a bit peripheral again in that first half. That's the one thing that we have been missing this last sort of 6 weeks. There's a cliche as you're only as good as your striker. We've sort of disproven that by winning so much with our main striker out of form. But even getting into the start of the second half, he had a bit of a lacklustre shot into the near post where I thought his head's down. He snatched
Kyogo's
that, head is.
He just looks short in confidence and a bit snatching.
His body language was wrong as well, because he would offer him not just go the opposite side of the keeper. And it's unlike him because his energy and his desire is just integral to how he plays for Celtic. So that's why it was so important beyond that he got those two strikers' goals. Because I'd imagine when his head, frame of mind in the dressing room before, and he will start at Ibrox now, he should, and he will. But his frame of mind's going to be in the right place now, and that's worrying for them. Because if he's playing in the shoulder of an injury-ravaged Rangers defence, they know that they're in trouble.
We were going to have a Kyogo debate at some point in this video, so let's have it just now. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion, and as you say, peripheral figure, that has been the predominant way that Kyogo's played for the last 18 to 20 months. Since Brendan Rodgers came in, that's the way he's been. And you could argue even under Ange at times, he was like that because the team has to play to his strengths and give him the service, and we know that he lives off those low cutbacks. He lives off brilliant wide play and getting to the byline and off his movement in the box. That's been a factor and a theme throughout the Celtic career that people have said he's been peripheral when he's not scoring, he's not involved in the game enough. I think that's still the case just now. I think when you couple that with not scoring a lot of goals, that's when people really start to pay attention to it. I think in the last few weeks we've seen some ridiculous knee-jerk reactions to his form, his place in the team, his place even at Celtic. A lot of people wanting to move him on, and I know that a lot of this is social media driven, and that's not always representative of the wider fan base or sane human beings at times, but there's been a lot of dismissive opinions of Kyogo, so it was brilliant for him to get back on the score sheet today. But where do you stand in terms of the debate between him and Ida? I don't think Ida's firing on all cylinders right now either, or has been this season, because I think Kyogo's ahead of him in league goals, and you can argue about the game time there as well. But I just heard Brendan Rodgers after the game talking about how strikers have never had to be the be all and end all of his teams. He likes a spread of goals, and that's what he's always had. And a lot of the goal threat comes from the wide areas in Rodgers' teams, which we've seen in both tenures for him. But obviously, I'm a huge fan of Kyogo. Everybody knows that. You might think that at this point is favouritism, but I just think people have been a wee bit knee-jerk in recent weeks. And I think when you come to that game at Ibrox, yes, there is a case to be made for Ida starting up front because of the physical presence that he brings in terms of disrupting Rangers. I think he had a more positive impact on the cup final than Kyogo did when he came off the bench. But it seems like all of a sudden people have just absolutely written off Kyogo's record since he arrived at Celtic. The number of goals he scored against Rangers, the number of big goals he scored in cup finals. He scored a couple of times in the Champions League group stages as well. It's like we've all forgotten that, and now there's no way that he can continue playing.
The reason that's a difficult discussion, or a good discussion, is it's quite polarised people's views on Kyogo, because in one breath you're saying he's the best striker we've had since Henrik Larsson. In the other breath you're saying, hang on, we've scored 52 goals this season. He's only scored in the league. He's only scored 6 of them. He's our main striker.
8 as of today.
8 as of today. But getting into today, when people were critical, it was 6. And he doesn't give you any assists. He might give you the odd assist, but that's not his game. We know that's not his game. And he can have 2 or 3 touches in one half, right? So I can understand. I think it's fair that he's had a bit of criticism up until today. He's not exempt of criticism. I think that goal returns. I think that goal returns pretty weak. And I think his contribution outside of his goal return is pretty weak. However, he's not been here 3 months, and we're trying to sort of judge whether or not someone has got ability, or judge whether or not someone can deliver in the heat of the moment under pressure. We're in a privileged position whereby we know that. And he's someone that is, I believe, affected by confidence, but you'll be lucky to find a striker in the world that's not affected by confidence. He's not had a confidence lull that often in a Celtic jersey because he's been so prolific. He did have one, I think it was last season, the season before last, where he just looked like a shadow of himself. He scored a tap-in against Motherwell away from home at Fir Park, and he was revitalised. He went on to this huge burst of goals, and he was a pivotal figure in winning the league for us. There's no reason why today, getting a couple of goals can't change his frame of mind, and he can go on and win the league for us again. Well, the league's won, right? But he can't make the season even more special by contribution from striker. So, look, for me, I think you just sort of need to park his form today, realise that he's an integral part of the squad. Is he the best since Henrik Larsson? We need more to talk about that. I'm not sure whether I can say yes or no to that right now, but the very fact that that's a debate tells you how good he is. Is Adam Maeda ready to displace him? I like Ida. I was an advocate of signing him, was an advocate of paying that much money. I was surprised by the fee for him. And I think his goal rate up until the last 3 or 4 games has probably put me on the side of saying that he has justified his fee. But he's not done that in the last 3 or 4 games. He was brilliant in that cup final when he came on. But whenever he started against lower opposition in the league, when we were looking for a striker just to bury games early, he's failed. So, for me, hopefully, that puts Kyogo's mindset is now corrected because he's got a couple of goals. He absolutely starts against Rangers, and you can't write him off. It's been completely flawed to say that he's someone that we need to move on because he's nearly 30 or he's a shadow of the player he was. That is knee-jerk. That's nonsense, right? He's an experienced player that gets Celtic and has had an amazing contribution to the club in the hardest of moments, in the real heat of the battle, when it really comes down. It doesn't matter if he touches the ball 3 times in one game. If 2 of those are goals in a cup final or 2 of those are goals in a Celtic Rangers game, then that's all you need, and you know that's when he comes alive. So this, you might find at the last, tail end of the seasons when Kyogo does become alive.
Aye, I think obviously it's a big debate, and I think it's probably an accurate representation of how fickle football supporters can be. Because to talk about is he the best striker since Larsson thing, that was like an open and shut case when he was in form maybe 2 years ago, and he had that season where he scored 35 goals, and with the goals against Rangers, he went through that period of scoring against them 5 or 6 times in a row.
Well, even this season, that when he scored in the opening Celtic Rangers game, he was superb in that match, and it was same.
And then he hits a bit of bad form, and again I see this there's no chance he's nowhere near the best striker we've had since Larsson. Or that just sums up how fickle we can be at times. Like I say, I think there's a case for Ida to start at Ibrox. I just think you're brave to put that case forward, given Kyogo's record in this fixture.
Plus, they're centre halves, right? They're going to suffer, I believe, against someone with his brain and speed in behind than someone who's playing with their back to goal. It suits more that fixture.
Aye, we'll see how that goes on Thursday. Again, Kenny, a lot of good performances today in midfield. Now you've talked about Engels there, but I thought Bernardo's really good, as you say. I thought Atati was really good today as well. A brilliant ball for Kühn's opener, where he just finds him in between the centre half and the full back when we win the ball back for St Johnstone. I thought he had a couple of really nice passes in the game. He's involved in the build-up to Kyogo's first goal as well, where he sort of dinks it for Bernardo and Kyogo puts in the rebound. So I thought he was involved all afternoon. And like you say, the captain comes out, who's definitely going to come back in on Thursday. And all of a sudden, again, you go back maybe 3 or 4 games and people are not sure who's in form out of those 3. Off the back of these 2 home performances, I think they've all had key contributions. They all look a bit brighter, a bit more confidence about them, a bit sharper. And the manager's got a decision to make at 2 positions and 3 players to go into them, and that's without even considering Luke McCowan.
Yeah, a tough one. Unfortunately, McCowan's obviously not going to play, although he's in great form himself. McGregor starts. Bernardo, I think I would start just because
he barely puts a foot wrong, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. 8 out of 10 every single week. Even today, it's not. But it's not just his sort of robustness, and he's not just a utility player. He's coming in and playing with quality in his feet. That little ball he put through for Maeda's 4th goal was superb. And then look at the energy. He set up that, was it the second goal, Kyogo's first? Yeah. He set that up and he's dominated a header, a run into the back post. I think he starts, because although Rangers are out of form and they're almost a bit of a sort of novelty for us at the moment, Rangers, it's still a hostile environment, right? You're getting into, it's not going to be easy. And I think playing with 2 10s, when you've got someone like Bernardo who can hold the middle of the park for us, is someone we should take advantage of. I would play Bernardo, obviously McGregor starts. The decision for me is Engels or Hatate. Now, if Rio's in form, if Rio's bang in form, Yeah, he's the first name.
day
He
long.
dismantles them, right? He owns the whole game.
Pitch,
The problem is, although Rio's been great at times this season, he has been inconsistent. So is Engels, right? Engels gives you probably just a bit more physicality and a bit more of a rangy player.
Running power.
That'll, yeah, and he'll get back a bit better, and he'll tackle a bit deeper. But I think if you're getting that out of Bernardo and McGregor, I would unleash Rio. I think he should, and then when he was superbly coming against Motherwell, I know it was a cameo. I mean, he looked absolutely brilliant. So I think Rio's maybe had enough rest over the last couple of games, and his head's starting to get in the right place. That he's going to be the man that I would play. I would play a 6-8-10. Bernardo in the middle, McGregor just controlling the lot, and just give Rio the freedom. Just don't overthink it, Rio. Do what you can do.
I think again, it's that sums up the situation just now, because I think in the manager's mind it will probably be between Bernardo and Engels. I feel like Hatate is maybe just above both of those in the pecking order, and I agree with you. I totally agree that Hatate has these games, wee pockets or 2 or 3 games where you think he's amazing, brilliant form, and then the next 2 or 3 games he'll be like an absolute shadow of himself, and that's the big problem for Hatate generally in his career, to find that consistency week in and week out, and for there not to be any question marks that he is the first name in the team sheet. As I say, I think for the manager it will be Bernardo or Engels. It's interesting that for you, you'd go with Bernardo, and then it's a toss of a coin between
Just
Engels
because
and
of the environment, right? We're going to be under a bit of pressure. You can't.
Yeah.
We don't have any fans in the stadium, right? You're going to have 50,000 people breathing down your neck. That's fine. Don't have any problem with that. Rodgers won't have any problem with that. But it just structurally, I think, helps things when you're maybe only going to have 50-60% possession instead of your normal 70-75% possession, and you're playing a guy that's quality. That's not just giving up a bit of attacking flair to bring someone in and shore things up. I don't see that as a negative decision, bringing Bernardo in, because he's not, and he's been here long enough and consistent enough that he won't be phased at all going to Ibrox. That would just be my choice, right? Tough choice. Great problem to have. Brilliant problem to have. And there's not the only problem we've got in terms of picking people, but we've got a bit of a luxury there at the moment, so we should enjoy that.
Well, if you look at the Rangers team, they don't have any headaches like that, where people are trying to get in front of people, bodies, and it's a really difficult decision across numerous areas of the pitch, as it is for us. I thought Engels, just the last one on him today, that he did take my breath away with that cross. I think that cross was absolutely perfect. It was the kind of ball that, again, that you like to see more often for Kyogo, that early cross where we don't just look for a sideways pass or bring it back out to recycle it and build the game and go down the other side. It was like, get the ball out of your feet, nice early cross into a great area. Something I'd like to see us do more often. I think we did it today because there's maybe a wee bit more space in behind St Johnstone than there has been maybe in recent weeks where teams have been defending really, really deep. But I thought that was almost the best moment of the game, aside from Kühn's goal, which was absolutely brilliant. I think that was the most impressive moment of the game, that cross. It was absolutely
technically he's absolutely brilliant, even through all this seemingly inferior sort of form he's within. His corners are deadly, right? Because he strikes a ball so pure, and he's almost like he's developed this sort of trademark where he plays these rake and swerve balls from inside his own half, that's putting the likes of Maeda through just with their speed from inside his own half. Now, it's rare that you see people. When was the last time we had a good corner taker? I mean, you could probably count on one hand the men we've had in the last 15 years. But that's just the purity of him as a footballer. He's in the Belgian national team. He started the last Belgian national game in the middle of the park, a 20-year-old. You can't overlook that. They're not doing that just through luck. They're doing that because they see the class that he's got in the training part. So I have no doubt over the course of his 4-year contract with Celtic, it will be a success. I genuinely don't. At this point in time, when you're trying to put the final nail in the coffin, going to a cauldron like Ibrox, is it the right time to start him? It might be. It might be. My view might be wrong. On balance, I would just go with Rio. But the fact that he's returning to some sort of form is a big help for us, because we're going to need it. It's not just the league that we're battling in here. We're trying to get through a Champions League campaign. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree. I think defensively today, very little for us to do. Nothing, basically. It's another clean sheet for Kasper Schmeichel. Scored 52, conceded 4. It's absolutely mind-blowing numbers. Defending so well all over the pitch that's set by the press and intensity of the team. But defensively, there is, again, headaches for the manager. Valle comes in today. I thought he was good. I thought he was really good. We've talked a lot about Alex Valle recently. he's not had so many minutes in the last 3 or 4 games, but you can see what his qualities are. I think he carries the ball really well. He's a great dribbler. He evades defenders. He's got really nice vision, can pass the ball. And Taylor obviously has been the predominant choice for the manager so far. So that's a decision to be made. Again, you think about Taylor's performance in the cup final, which was below par even for his own standards. So that's a decision at left back. And obviously Austin Trusty looks to have been displaced again by Liam Scales, who's barely put a foot wrong since he came back in the team. So again, we've talked about midfield, we've talked about up front. I think the only place in the team that isn't up for debate are the two wide areas. I think Kühn and Maeda are an absolute stick on. But again, one centre-half position and one full-back position up for grabs.
I think, well, let's talk about the easier one first. The centre-back, well, I think if he was going to start, Trusty would have started him today. Centre-back pairings are all about chemistry. You don't give them 2 games off, then enter a Celtic Rangers game like that. Vai is that's a more of a fine margin decision. I think he's a more cultured attacker than Greg Taylor. I think that's clear when you think back to the sort of back heel assist he did out at St Johnstone. Greg Taylor just doesn't do that, right? I mean, he's come through the Barcelona academy. You can see that in the way he plays the game. Greg Taylor has the experience, however, of getting into that powder keg environment, being able to just do some hard defending and being able to shut out that type of pressure. Does Vai have that experience for Celtic? Well, the answer is actually yes, because the hardest, toughest, deep in defending we've done all season was away to Atalanta. Vai did that. I would start Vai because I'm not sure that Greg's head, his contract situation has not been solved yet. He can sign for someone for free in a few days' time. Is that influencing his performance? It's hard to be definitive, but he did have that pretty big mistake against Rangers in the League Cup final. He repeated that mistake twice against Motherwell, tried to play the ball inside, getting caught out, nearly conceding a goal. I think Greg Taylor's been a great servant to the club. I think he's a little bit maligned because he came in the shadow of Kieran Tierney and he's not got that sort of free-flowing attacking flair that we expect from a Celtic fullback. But I think he's been a great servant. I would just start Vai against Rangers just on merit. I think he's done enough in an attacking sense. He's proven himself in a defensive sense. And I think Greg's maybe just enough off form that tips the balance for me. But left back's difficult because that is the one position that feels inferior to the rest. And all the talk about Kieran Tierney won't go away. You would think that there's a realistic chance he's going to return to the club. A fit Kieran Tierney takes us up a level. There's no doubt about that. His fitness is a huge question, but that would be, if it's a huge question for a Celtic, it's going to be a huge question for any other club. So is Celtic the right place for him? I think it probably is. But that's another debate. I think I would go with Vai. I think on merit he's earned that start against Rangers.
It's all eyes on that team line-up on Thursday, with so many question marks and so many decisions for the manager to make. Let's turn our attention to that game now. Kenny, I suppose, said to the boys just outside the full-time reaction there, totally different complexion on it than there was 7 days ago when the gap's 9 points. It's now 14. Rangers have dropped more points today at Motherwell, and we find ourselves in a position where we can go and really hurt them on Thursday and basically all but end it as a contest, any semblance of a title race that remains this season.
Yeah, I mean,
put them out of misery, really.
A historical cliche is these games don't go to form, but I think that's probably, that cliche should be put to bed, because in recent times these games have gone to form. Rangers centre-backs are just going to struggle. I would just go for the throat. Show them no respect. Just Maeda out wide and Kühn out wide, I can't see any way that they're going to control them, particularly Kühn. He's just electric at the moment. He's edge of the seat stuff. He plays the game simple. He knows his strengths and he could damage him. But they hate Maeda. They cannot cope with Maeda. I think if Kyogo gets his head in a better place based on his 2 goals today, he can get right in behind their centre halves without any issue whatsoever. And if Rio Itatis get the freedom to play with McGregor and Bernardo behind him, we could dominate the game. We couldn't just win the game, but we could win the game out of sight and dominate it. However, with no fans in the ground, it's a powder keg of a game. It doesn't take much for people to become in a bit of a spin. We saw that in the cup final, right? It was a really balanced game. On paper, we still won it easily. We could easily have lost it. So you never want to take anything for granted. But it's exciting because we can now play with a bit of freedom. maybe you feel that more as a fan when you're 14 points clear than you do. You're less tense than could it go down to 6. Then if you're across those white lines, maybe it doesn't make as much of a difference. But Brendan Rodgers has got them in such a good. Brendan Rodgers knows how to get our team to peak at the right time, and he knows how to handle those occasions. We could scarcely be a better position to completely exploit them and go, what, I lose count now? 17 clear it would be?
17 it would be if we
We've
get
done
the win.
anyway, right?
If
But
we get the win on Thursday.
well, let's punish them.
Aye, let's hope so. I think it's the biggest cliche in the world, right? And there's so many cliches that surround this fixture, but we talk about the start to the game all the time being so key. I think the way the Rangers have started the past 2 games, they had a terrible first half against St Mirren, and by all accounts they must have had a terrible first half today because they went in 2-0 down at Fir Park. The way we start this game on Thursday, if we do go at them and pin them back and we dominate the first half and we go in with a lead, we know that crowd that's there without any fans for us will become a hindrance for Rangers. It will become toxic because of the form they're in, because of how far they are behind us. If we can get a really good start and take control of that game, we can make it a long afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, their fans are baying for blood as soon as the ball kicks off, right? Because they're at their wits' end with what they've seen. I think a lot of the damage is going to come out wide. They just cannot cope with Maeda. Presumably, I don't know who's going to start for them, right? It's hard to keep up with their starting 11s. But whoever they play at right back is going to have a nightmare. And Kühn, the nice thing about Kühn, it's not like he's had a recent run of 4 or 5 90 minutes where he's been outstanding and there's a possibility he might have a drop-off. He's coming into a groove. Alistair Johnstone has had a nice rest now because of his injuries. He's coming into a groove. So I would just hit them heavy out wide, early, with pace, and we will have the luxury of being able to do that because we've got quality in the middle of the park through Rio, and whoever plays alongside him, it may well be Engels. But I think speed out wide and not being afraid to, if they're starting to play a little bit high because they're going to be forced to be because they're at home, they're not going to play with a low block against Celtic at home. That will irate their fans even more. So just keeping an eye on the fact that they're going to be squeezing the game a bit, and that's when Kyogo hurts them, that's when he becomes alive. Because any balls in behind, and Engels showed you how brilliant he is today at finding people from deep over the top, that type of ball's going to hurt them. And look, it's exciting, anything can happen. The nice thing is, even if we were to lose a game, that wouldn't really materially affect the outcome of the league title, you wouldn't think. But it's going to be, it could be a game where we really exploit them, and if we start with speed.
Aye, I think obviously their shape causes problems in the first half of the cup final, and we weren't playing so well, didn't move it well at all, sort of played into their hands in that first half. But I think in that early period of the second half, Kühn absolutely killed Jefty, so I don't know who's going to be starting the left back for Rangers on Thursday, but you're right to say that if Kühn is in form up against them, he could make it a really long day.
They'll probably try and suffocate McGregor, right?
Which they did to decent effect in the first half in the League Cup final.
They did, yeah, but sometimes they try and do that and they just can't. Callum's had a good rest today. I thought he was excellent against Motherwell, McGregor. I said earlier I thought Scales was man of the match. It's probably wrong. McGregor was man of the match. So he is going to be well rested. They're going to be more than aware that they're going to try and snuff him out of the game. But it's one thing thinking about it, it's another thing being able to do it. And I think if McGregor gets his foot on the ball, that's what will dictate the tempo of the game. And we know that if we're successful in dictating the game through McGregor, that we win. History tells you.
Yeah. So just to round us off, last game of the year, last game of 2024, it's been a phenomenal calendar year. We talked about it in the build-up to today. We round it off with another convincing win, only 2 defeats in all competitions across it. We've picked up all 3 trophies over the year of 2024 as well. Remarkable year for us.
Yeah, and if you think, I mean, even the defeats, one was against the Champions League finalists. One was that sort of really dodgy game against Hearts. We got a man sent off and a bad penalty. So to go through an entire calendar year, okay, it's in the Scottish League and we've got more resources than other people, but I think that's a cheap way of looking at it. You've got to take stock of how superb a run and achievement that is, particularly when you think that we entered that calendar year booing Santa off the park and having real sort of problems embedding Brendan Rodgers back into the culture of the team. Him deploying his own ideas and sort of getting through that transition from Postecoglou, which was a very challenging one.
Yeah.
So if you think back to last January when we were facing those issues, to think that you would only lose the 2 games that I've described between now over the course of 12 months, it is remarkable. And we should cherish these moments. Okay, we've had such longevity of success now that you and I regularly talk about. We should cherish these moments, but I sat through enough when I was growing up to realise that these things should not be taken for granted. It doesn't matter how long it lasts. So Brendan Rodgers deserves all the credit that anyone can put upon him, because we've talked about Kühn, we've talked about McGregor, we talk about individuals, but there's one person over the last 12 months who's masterminded all of that success. And he's not done it on he spent a lot of money, broke the transfer record during that, and he spent £9 million on another striker, but he's not done it whereby he's been able to throw outrageous amounts of money all over the park. He's done it by reinventing. Kühn was £3 million, and he's done it by reinventing, keeping the longevity in a lot of the players from the Postecoglou era, who have continued under his reign to be motivated and to provide the sort of success that they saw under the previous manager. And it's not rare; it's quite rare that you see that sort of longevity through a side. So yeah, brilliant. I mean, look, how could you be any happier? I just hope that we get the Champions League over the line in terms of qualification, because we're not a little bit of a dicey situation now, but it looks like 10 points might not actually mathematically do it. So we've got to win that. It would be a real travesty if everything we put into that fell over just because of a deflection or a red card or a disappointing night. We've got to make sure that we get that over the line. Yeah. And if we get that over the line, I think we can say we've got a tangible output to take us into a level that we've not been on before in recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one on today. Lot of good performances across the pitch, I thought, today. Can you single him out for man of the match?
I think Bernardo deserves a mention. He's definitely in the mix. I think Engels, just for his energy and his overall sort of impact on the game. But I would give it to Kühn, because I just think, although he was only on the park for an hour, there's a difference there when he's getting the ball and he's running it there, man. He's the one person that you think, wow, I mean, the German national team managers mentioned him recently. If we can somehow squeeze his way into that squad, we can write our own cheque for him. But let's hope that cheque's not forthcoming in the next year or two, because he's been completely transformed this season. And that hour 65 minutes was him at his best today. And my God, if he repeats anything like that in a few days' time, we're going to be pretty happy. Yeah. So I would go Kühn.
I think Kühn's been incredible. Hands down, play of the year. He just gives a totally different dimension. And last one today, Sam, who's your man of the match?
I think it'd be Kühn.
Kühn, there you go.
Good job, buddy.
Full house for Nicolas Kuhn here at the post-match Pint. That's it for tonight. Like the video, give us your own thoughts on the game below. We will see you during the week for the build-up to that big derby at Ibrox. Thank you.